Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. This is the podcast show. I'm your host, Khalid. This is my co-host, Aditya. We don't really have hosts on this particular show. It's just a bunch of us that chill together, sit and have a conversation about what's happened over the last week. And it happened to fall on a day that we're supposed to do the preview and review for day three. So we put it all together and joined all of that together basically. So it's going to have a mixture of both. You have a feel of a review preview show, but you'll also have that feel of that podcast show. A little bit of both. So this is perfect because I haven't seen Aditya in quite some time. So what's been going on with you, Aditya? What you've been up to? How's things on your side of the world?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been quite an eventful week. Been catching up on some movies, and I spent some time out of the house. We had for a better part of 2 years. I think we had some of the world's most draconian measures to contain COVID. So a lot of us were homebound, and now it just feels like we need to let it all out. So yeah, that's what I was doing. But yeah, very good to be back as always and covering cricket.
Of course. I mean, you had some hectic cases and stuff happening. You personally having to isolate and all of those things. So, like, geez, it's nice that I'm so happy that you can get out there and actually experience some normality. I'm looking around me as well in South African Cape or like Cape Town. I don't know what it's like in Joburg. Ravi will come give me some insight there. But in Cape Town, it looks quite like people have started to go back to normal with certain aspects of hanging out and doing things. A lot more people are out and about on the beaches and out on the roads, etc. So yeah, it is nice to see that again. Also to see some people in the stadiums. We saw the CSA T20 Challenge, obviously the final having some people in the stadiums over there and throughout the tournament as well. So that was good to see. A pity I couldn't be there. I would have loved to be there to experience that and see the Rocks crown champions. I mean, the T20 format, obviously, the perfect format for them. It doesn't matter what they seem to do. The Rocks brand, whether they're playing MSL or they're playing a CSA T20 challenge competition, they just find the winning formula. I have to give credit to that coaching staff. It's excellent work from the coaches, all the coaches, even the assistant coaches, for continuing that and bringing that winning mentality throughout the tournament. But yeah, how are you, Ravi? How's things with you? It's also a catch up for me and you. So I haven't seen your face in ages as well.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Aditya. Good evening, Khalid. Good evening, South Africa, and anybody who's watching this broadcast throughout the world, was broadcast stream throughout the world. No, I'm well, thank you, Khalid. It's been a very busy couple of weeks from my end, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to a brand new start in the month of March. I'll start changing careers very soon. But other than that, same old, same old. Things are going quite well. I'm enjoying the cricket. I actually jumped on the broadcast with 1WSR the last, I think, what was it, the last 2 weeks or so. I managed to do a little bit of commentary with them, so it was always good just to use them as a sounding board just to understand what's happening in the South African cricket camp as well. But yeah, all good from my side. Yeah. Joburg, you asked me about Joburg. I would say things are normalizing quite a bit. Santon is quite busy. It is sort of the micro business hub of South Africa, of Joburg at least, and things are happening. Things are moving. Traffic is very much there again, which is one thing I didn't miss in the pandemic. But yeah, things are looking very positive overall.
Okay, so it's the perfect time for us to get right into the cricket because there's quite a bit to talk about. I think let's do it in order this time. Let's start first and foremost with the bowling. And yes, congratulations to Colin de Granholm for his performance and getting that century, of course. But I felt that South Africa's bowling plans to him was completely wrong. A batter that tends to know how to hit the ball and play an attacking brand of cricket as well. To bowl short deliveries to a guy like that, to try and catch him out on the long boundaries, etc., was a bit confusing to me that they went with that approach. I thought that the approach of frustration probably would have worked maybe a little better than the approach of trying to bomb him out. I'm sure that would have frustrated them that they couldn't get runs on the board if we had to bowl a lot more accurate in those good, decent areas. There was a lot of either short deliveries or full deliveries bowled. Even if you go watch the highlights package of this, because I've watched the game and then I've watched the highlights package afterwards as well, just to see if it looks similar in what I've assessed. Now, yes, there was periods in the game when we were accurate and we were keeping that ball on spots. But generally speaking, if you look at the times that they put us away to the boundary, it was all from full deliveries or it was from short deliveries, majority of the time. Hardly ever in that occasion did we see a decent delivery or good delivery get put to the boundary. So that did not happen. So let's just start with the bowling first and foremost. So first we have to say congratulations to KG, congratulations to Dwan Olivier, congratulations to even Kesh picking up a wicket with all of that noise around him. What were you guys' thoughts on the bowling performance? We could have restricted them to less. I mean, I know I was speaking on the previous show about it, and I said I would like to see maybe a deficit of 50 if we can keep them down to a deficit of 50. And I was laughing and making a joke about it, but in the end, we actually did that, like just over, So to see it actually happen, I was like, okay, wait a minute, how are we going to approach this? But we'll get to the batting side of things. Let's first start with the bowling, Aditya, and you guys can speak when you are ready. You don't have to wait for my cue on this particular podcast show.
Yeah, it was interesting, but I think I'd go with what Rassi Vendadosan said. And he said that Colin de Granholm basically played his best innings in Test shirt, right? It was the second 100, I believe, and he was prepared to attack. He was prepared to take risks, and he did come out swinging. So, if anything, I feel like that approach disturbed the South African bowlers a little bit. But on the whole, I think KG was on fire. He did well, and there is opportunity for spin here as well. So, I thought the bowling generally was fine. Colin de Granholm played a fantastic innings, and in retrospect, I suppose there can be certain questions asked about whether or not they would change their plans to him. But when someone comes out with that sort of mindset, and has a little bit of luck going his way as well, it's difficult to contain.
Ravi, I mean, the general consensus, and when I looked at it and analyzed it, a lot of the wickets were coming from a South African perspective. When we were taking wickets, a lot of them were coming off batters' mistakes. Now, when New Zealand took our wickets too, there's a lot of that happening in the series. More the batters getting themselves out. Why do you think that is?
I think it depends. Test cricket's a game about those half chances as well. So if I think back to, you asked me about South Africa's bowling, but I'll very briefly refer to South Africa's batting as well. I don't know if you recall Rassi's dismissal as well. He was trying to get under a short ball from Neil Wagner. And unfortunately, Wagner, it looked like he planned it and what have you. It was a much slower delivery. It was one of those tennis ball bounces. And I think Rassi was sort of in two minds on what to do, whether to play it or to leave it. And I think at some point he found like a happy medium. And unfortunately, he chipped it straight back to Wagner. And Wagner, of course, had a Hulk Hogan-like celebration thereafter. He was so intense. I was surprised he still had his shirt on afterwards. But be that as it may, I think that yes, there were a couple brain fades, from both camps as well. I think if you look at New Zealand's top five, you could say about 4 of those dismissals were somewhat unwarranted, as they call it in tennis, unforced errors. But the reality is that that's cricket in a nutshell. It's about putting the ball in the right area, and there's a degree of hope as well. There's a margin of error in which, unfortunately, quite a few of our batsmen found at the end of it. But yeah, I think that there were a couple of deliveries where, if we look at Keshav's bowling, for example, those are sublime deliveries. When he came on, he did some magic out there with the ball, and I think that LBW off, I think it was Daryl Mitchell, was exceptional delivery, in a sense that Mitchell was actually middling every single ball. I mean, as soon as the ball was slightly on the leg side or in a drivable length, Mitchell's putting them away. And bringing Maharaj on at that stage of the innings was a stroke of genius from Elgar. I will say this though, I felt that Elgar was a bit haphazard with his decision making. I think the one where he brought Keshav in at round about the 8th or the 9th over in the beginning of the morning's play, that was a stroke of genius. But at one point he brought Vian Mulder in for 1 over, took him off, and then replaced him immediately with Maharaj. So they didn't seem to have a plan, and they were doing all kinds of funny things. They were pitching the ball up to Colin de Grandhomme as well, which also didn't make sense to me. Because that's bread and butter for Colin de Grandhomme. Those of you that are fans of de Grandhomme will know he favors the pull and the hook as much as anything else. So, while they set the trap for him, I think they put 2 sweepers in the deep for de Grandhomme. I think a guy standing at deep mid wicket as well. That didn't materialize. De Grandhomme was a good enough batsman to find the gap as well. So they kept on pitching it up, and unfortunately, de Grandhomme was the victor in that particular instance. So there were a couple of things that they were trying. I like the fact that they're experimenting with certain field positions and certain ways of getting the guys out. They obviously gave it some thought, but I think the application of it wasn't as fluent. Another example is Marco Jansen coming around the wicket, which I felt was a waste of his talent, really, because if you really want to pitch the guy up, ideally you want to do it over the wicket like he's done in the first test in particular. So around the wicket, he was bowling much fuller, and the guys were getting underneath him a bit. Mitchell didn't really have enough of a challenge, really, when dealing with Jansen in that particular instance. Yeah, so a couple of brain fades, I think, definitely from the batters in some cases. But from a bowling point of view, from a tactical point of view, I think we were a little bit all over the place, which kind of like gift wrapped New Zealand a much lower deficit in the process.
Now, welcome to the show again, Anno. Good to see you. I want you to maybe elaborate on this as well, because given that South Africa's bowling hasn't necessarily been that consistent, I think that's also a lot to do with the fact that the selection with regards to our fast bowlers hasn't been consistent. There's been injuries, there's been changes, there's been debutants, a lot of changes over the last part. There hasn't been a consistency in partners kept throughout this series, unfortunately. And do you think that also makes it harder for guys like KG and the more senior guys to actually keep consistency as well?
Well, most certainly. I think one of the main reasons that South Africa was so successful as a pace-pronged attack is they built in a full battery attack, not just in a pairs of 2. I remember that Dale Steyn and KG used to fight over who can be paired next to Morne Morkel because they know he builds up the pressure. Same with Carl Abbott on the other end. You want to have somebody that is able to bowl in pairs. And not saying that this team or this attack does not want to do that or does not try to emulate that, but the haphazard changes, injury enforced, or whatever the reason might be, has not allowed for that. So it's almost a case of each one trying their best by themselves and hoping for the best. Although I do see that some of the but that KG has managed to understand that it's not the case where he used to have that advantage like a Morne Morkel on the other side or a Vernon Philander holding up pressure for him to take more wickets. He now takes a little bit more responsibility on his own. That's a good thing on the one side. On the other side, I also know that it's not sustainable for us or any team to bowl without a pressure bowler on the other side. So a good spinner would do that for you as well. So Keshi has been able to do that for us in the first innings, where I think that was very encouraging and not, planned, but it had that effect when we had Keshi actually turning the ball and causing a lot of problems to the New Zealand batsmen in the first innings, and that in effect or indirectly then built up the pressure for Janssen and for KG to take wickets on the other side. I I am really a little bit concerned that it's all for each one for himself type of experience that, or my experience that I'm seeing is a little bit of that. I'm sure it's not the case and it's not the intention, but what I see on the field is unfortunately not the case of bowling in pairs or a base battery bowling as a unit. It's more of a case of you're okay, you're a Bada, and you know what it takes. Let's go and execute. And Marco Jansen, pretty much the same. And well done for the youngster, doing so well, at such a young age and so little experience, being challenged by, an ex-South African who's been around the block and who's got a lot of skills around the mental aspects of the game to still come up trumps. I think that's one of the highlights of the test so far for me.
I think it's a little bit more difficult, for bowlers to build that partnerships or that ideas. We see a lot of you could say in with regards to batters, etc. You spend a lot more time with a batter out in the middle, learning their game plan, etc. If you've played with them domestically your whole life, etc., that helps. It should help. Which I was hoping was going to happen with Aiden Markram and Dean Alga, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. That Titans connection didn't help them out with the bat in that case. But when you hear people like Dwan Odefir and Magala talk about, and even Luto and Ziboto speak about the Lions and how much the partnerships are so important, how they were aiding each other to success. And then during this season of the 4-day competition, which has obviously we've seen there, they've reaped a hell of a lot of rewards. But unfortunately, there hasn't been time to obviously get those partnerships going over a long period of time with South Africa. Even with Lungi Ngidi and Rabada, they've had a lot of disruptions, both of them as a pair. There wouldn't have been a lot of matches where they actually went out together and played matches together, in fact. So we need to obviously build that core. But is it harder, Aditya, for bowlers to come in and just fall into a certain game plan when it comes to the ball and an ideology than it is for a batter to walk into a batting philosophy in a team?
I'm not sure. Look, I think generally in any facet of the game, there needs to be a certain chemistry in the partnership, right? Whether it's between batters or with bowlers. And the previous generation of South African bowlers, as Hanno mentioned, with Morne Morkel, Tail Stain, KG, Vernon Philander. I think by just the definition of their strengths, they balanced each other out. And if you look in particular at Dale Steyn and Morne Morkel, and even KG Rabada, they all bowled a similar pace. So they're quite unrelenting in that sense. And Vernon Philander had other strengths. So he was more of a wicket-to-wicket bowler, and he could bowl that same line and length consistently all day long. But that's not happening with the current bowling lineup, because with Andrik Nokia injured, KG Rabada is pretty much the fastest bowler in the team. And it is sort of unfair to expect Marco Jansen to be able to deliver that sort of consistency so early in his career. But I think that's certainly where the South African bowling attack is a bit more inconsistent than we would like. in saying that, this is a better performance than what they put out in the first Test match, and hopefully they can go from strength to strength. But as I've stated on previous shows, as much as the batting needs improvement, I don't think South Africa can take its bowling unit or its bowling depth for granted. That process of nurturing bowlers, particularly the kinds who can bowl in that 145 to 150 range, is desperately needed, because you look at the average pace of bowlers in the second tier of players, outside of KG and Andrik. I don't know if there are too many. I don't know if there are too many bowlers who can go at 145, 150. So
So, I thought that DJ's gonna get up and start dancing now.
Is
They've
it
been
Airwolf?
officially, they've been officially gone Indian. Bollywood.
Isn't that Airwolf? That's not Bollywood.
I don't know
That's
what it
Airwolf.
was.
I'm pretty sure.
no, it was Bollywood.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Continue.
So Airwolf could be a Bollywood movie if India really wanted it to become a Bollywood movie. That's what we're saying through the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. We can
I
dramatize
think
as much as we want.
I think anything can be a Bollywood movie in this day and age. Really, they could turn anything into a Bollywood movie. Some massive business doing amazingly. Actually, I must. I mean, it has been telling me I must start trying to watch those films. I don't know. I must try. Yeah.
Dilka Rishta actually was shot in Cape Town, Khalid. You might appreciate that movie, like many other Bollywood movies, funnily enough. But
This is
you know
one.
Yeah.
where they're dancing, all of a sudden they're in Austria, but then suddenly they get to Switzerland, and then suddenly they're in New York, and then Cape Town
Green
is like sort
screen.
of green screen, but it's all in Cape Town.
MS Dhoni's biopic was shot in Cape Town as well, like a part of it.
Interesting. Yeah, because when there was a movie that I was told to watch, but I don't know if it's a full-on Bollywood movie. There is cricket in it. I can't remember what it's called. Um, it's almost about how cricket started in a way. I'm trying to give little hints. Maybe one of you guys will come up with a name, but um, yeah, I can't remember what it's called now. But yeah, okay, let's move on, because this is an important part that we need to speak about. And no, Dex, we're not going to speak about the Book of Boba Fett today, even though I have watched all of it. I don't know if I don't know if Ravi's watched it, or if Ano's into Star Wars. I know Aditya isn't so much into Star Wars. But anyway, what we can speak about is, because this is obviously going to it coincides with each other. Thank you, South Africa, for giving us a test match, because for the way they batted in the first innings, I feel that we are riding off that currently. And then obviously New Zealand giving a counter punch. South Africa not able to bowl out the middle order, the bottom order, you could say, even though I'm not saying that those two batters aren't good batters, but generally speaking, we always struggle to take the lower order batters out. So they made it a proper contest. We are on day 3. We're actually privileged to be on day 3, where the contest is still in the balance. We don't know what's going to happen with Kyle Verreynne. Kyle Verreynne can possibly do something special tomorrow. I mean, we still have Vian Mulder. Vian Mulder owes everybody in his life a good innings with a bat, because we've all been pushing him with a bat for so long. And then we still got Marco Jansen and Kesh to come in. So that's still we could possibly have an opportunity here to put a decent lead on the board. So let's do it in reverse now. Let's go with Hano first, and then we can go to Ravi and Aditya. I want to hear your thoughts on the batting problems again. I mean, Aiden Markram, a poor performance again. Yes, he got a good delivery. It was an excellent delivery. But unfortunately, fortune is not on his side this time around, and it's looking like closer and closer as it's going along. It's looking like more and more like he's going to be the one that falls out for KP when KP returns.
woes is no surprise, and one swallow does not make a summer when it comes to first wicket partnership. What is it? The first time in 34 tests or something of that kind, or 16 tests on a away series that our opening partnership made more than 100. So that tells us it goes back to a time where we were ranked number 2 or 1 in the world. So even then it was an issue, and now that we're going through a slump, it's just accentuated. And basically, when it came down to blood, guts, and glory, yes, you have a South African DNA, that is suddenly present, and that can sometimes give the impression that our batting woes is solved. But it's just a case of wanting it more than the other team, as we saw with India, and then again, a little bit a case of being embarrassed in the first test and responding appropriately, like the proud way that South Africans have shown over history when they play New Zealand. Um, that's in raw terms, of course. Now, I know that we are going into this test playing 6 batsmen and Vian Mulder supposedly being a batting all-rounder, and him being allowed the patience to establish himself with the bat, same as with Aiden. But now we have 2 batsmen who's really on a long lease, or on a case where even I'm sure the players, Aiden himself or Vian himself, might even be thinking, shoot, I don't think I should be in this team. Maybe I should go and tell the coach, look, if you think it should be better for me to regain form outside, let me do that. That's fantastic if we have the Warren Buffett approach of picking somebody and sticking with them through the good times and the bad, and it's always worked with us. But there is, of course, a situation when you are going to have a little bit too much pain, like negating one of our proudest records, and not just our records, but one of the proudest records in cricket history. I mean, who else can say they've never lost in New Zealand? Nobody since 1931. And I'd like to mention, as a Protea fan who really is very proud when it comes to playing New Zealand from a sporting history perspective, I don't want to toy around with that. I think we are playing with fire, but regardless, still the blood, guts, and glory comes through. But that's not the question. The question is, should we be worried? Have we done enough? Have we made some changes? Keegan Peterson was the man of the match the previous series. He's injured now, and it just highlighted again a systematic scenario of our top 6 and top 7, even when we were, on top of the world.
Yeah, we're going to continue this batting conversation. I just have to. There is a comment that actually highlighted it, the movie, or mentioned the movie that I was speaking about, Aditya. That others couldn't get to the name, is Lagaan. I haven't watched it yet. I've been told for years that I should watch it. But I think it's that almost 4-hour time stamp that's on it that has prevented me from doing so. Yeah, you would even be shocked to know that, or Ravi will be shocked to know that I haven't even watched that Martin Scorsese movie on Netflix yet. The Mafia one. I still haven't watched it yet because of The Irishman. Yes, because of
Irishman.
Yeah,
Irishman's brilliant.
I know it. I've heard so, but that timestamp on it. It's a long time. It's a T20 game.
A long
I have to sit
time. But if you could stomach the new Matrix movie, Khalid, you can watch The Irishman for 3 hours.
Oh, please. Bro, that was horrible. Anyway, let's move on from that. Let's not go talking about the new Matrix movie. Let's continue with the points that Arno made on, because I thought it was excellent points made. There's a lot to chat about with the batting because it's another failed performance from our batters. Rasif van der Dussen, even though he got that 45, once again, to me, my heart's in my throat every time I'm watching batting test cricket, like I say, as per usual. It scares me when he does. I mean, we could see right at the beginning, he almost popped it up straight to the bowler. And then he got dismissed almost identically, destroying the pull shot. But that type of the dismissals don't look good on the type of batter he is, generally speaking. Like I don't know if that was a brain fart or what it was, the way he got dismissed. We needed him to go on and push on. But we can't criticize him too much because he did get a good score. It was very vital to South Africa. To South Africa, getting to the place where they need to be, or at least into a competitive position, keeping us in that game. Because I mean, Aiden got a good delivery, but I think it's Aiden's time is up in this team. It's looking more and more so that he's going to get dropped, and KP is going to replace him in Bangladesh. Um, but Kyle Verreynne, this is a position that he's finding himself in, that he's familiar with from a team perspective and mentality perspective. But we are clearly seeing in this particular, by the last couple of series, with the new people that have come into the team since Bouch has taken over, Test cricket is not even close to what these guys have experienced before. It's something on a different level. So Aditya, the pressure that Kyle must be feeling now, even though it is kind of familiar, he can take something out of that, the fact that it is familiar to a situation that he's been in before. But there's a lot of pressure and expectation on Kyle Verreynne's shoulder tomorrow or this evening.
Yes, there's pressure on Kyle Verreynne, and there is pressure on Veer Mulder to deliver with the bat. And if there's any consolation that they can take from the situation that they find themselves in, is that there's still a lot of time left in the game. So they don't need to worry about scoring fast, and I'm pretty sure that as Rassi said in the press conference, they want to aim for that 300 mark and see how it goes. P-Dog, in fact, said on Twitter that they should try to go for about 315 or so, because it's a good batting wicket and there aren't too many demons in there. But yeah, we'll have to see how Kyle goes. If there is an opportunity for him to really cement his spot in this team, tomorrow is the day. That's when he's got to perform. But to comment on the batting woes of the team, I'm reminded constantly of Herschel Gibbs' assessment of the number of centuries that a batsman has scored, in the context of the number of games that have been played. So he talked about Sarah Lerby's 10 centuries in 100 games, and Werner had previously talked about Rassi and Timber centuries, in about, I think, 150 odd games. So there is a problem there, and it stems from perhaps the lack of nurturing at domestic level. I don't know what the issue is, but I feel like there's something at the domestic level that they're probably not getting, which is resulting in them scoring fewer centuries than they probably should. And you can see that in their conversion rate in international cricket. Temba Bavuma, after he gets set, he scores a 50 odd. He scores a wonderfully tough 50 odd, but then he's not able to convert that into 100. Rassi van der Dussen, he played, by his admission, he played a more streaky but certainly enjoyably aggressive 45, and then he found a way to get himself out. So there is a problem there. And I don't know if that's technical or if that's mental, but it is something that needs to be addressed at the domestic level first. As for Aiden Markram, I thought that 42 was fairly good, and I don't know if that's going to be his lifeline going into the next series, because if there was ever a series for him to get back into form, it would be the Bangladesh series. So I don't know if the team is going to give him that opportunity, but yeah, it does seem like his spot is vulnerable as a team. Like I said,
because at the end of the day, the Bangladesh series is going to be very important for South Africa, for us to understand where the team is and what our coaching staff and everybody thinks about the players at that particular point. It's going to tell us a lot who's in the pecking order and what the pecking order is. I think the Bangladesh series is going to really open up our minds to that, because I think us as a fan base don't know what the pecking order is. A lot of us thought that Ryan Rickleton will come straight in, and that doesn't seem to be the case. It looks like Zubair Hamza is ahead of him currently. We know Sarel Irvia is now an opening batter. He scored essentially opening the batting against the world champions. There's no way you can drop him now. Where does Aiden Markram sit in their eyes? Is he a 4? Is he a 3? What must he be dropped? Like, we need to get these answers. But let's focus on tomorrow on the game and day 4. Ravi, your position on thinking when we talk about the way we approach the batting tomorrow, I want to ask you this specifically. If you had to give instructions to Kyle Verreynne and Vian Mulder, like what their role should be, does the one sit back? Do they both go out attack? What should the approach be? What should the strategy be when Kyle Verreynne and Vian Mulder go out there and walk out in the middle tomorrow?
I think the tactic should be bet like your life depended on it. I mean, it sounds very blasé to say, but on a more serious note, if you look back to how Mitchell and the ground arm approached the start of yesterday's play, is exactly the same sort of approach these two individuals, Verreynne and Mulder, should take. They should play their strokes. They shouldn't be stunted by the fact that they are playing international cricket now. And I think an interesting question was raised yesterday on the 1WSR podcast of, how long is too long, how soon is too soon. And in Verreynne's case, he's only been there for 6 test matches, right? So you don't expect the guy to move mountains, but it's still an opportunity nevertheless. South Africa only has a 211-run lead. This is the world test champions we're talking about. They could chase down sub 300 very easily. So we need to make this as much of a challenge as possible. So our batting order, and you quite rightfully said earlier, it's more than just Verreynne and Mulder coming up. Now, you've got Jansen, you've got Maharaj, who have proven time and time again that they can also bat as well. I think the strategy should be to aim for at least an 80 to 100 run sort of stand. Among the remaining 4 batters or 5 batters at least, just to get them over the mark. Because I think 300 plus runs is far more, gives it a little bit more comfort that they could be defended, as opposed to anything less than 250. If you're gonna go with a negative mindset, that's what's bound to happen. And unfortunately, New Zealand is just too good a team to not gobble up a deficit like that. So I think if you can get over the 310, maybe 320 lead, I think you're in business there. And remember, it's a session-by-session game as well, so things can happen very easily in South Africa's favor.
I just want to clear up something that seems to always happen in the comment section. They always seem to misunderstand me. I'm not saying that Hamza is ahead of Rickleton currently. I said that it seems to be that way when they selected him. Now, it's easy for us to say that it's quota is the reason that Hamza was selected ahead of Ryan Rickleton. They have yet to actually say that to the public. Unfortunately, that's then either way, that is still a speculation. Even though someone has come out and maybe written opinion pieces, etc. on it, I'm saying that is the reason. Until Victor Mpitsang tells me that that's the reason why Zubair Hamza is starting, I don't think I will believe it. Yeah, the approach, once again, I just want to add to that, because New Zealand is not going to give South Africa a lot of room for run scoring room. We're going to have to pile on the pressure tomorrow. So we know that certain ways to do that is to find the singles, rotate the strike, put pressure back on the New Zealand bowlers. I feel fatiguing them is the best way to do so, because yes, their bowlers are excellent, but they do have age a little bit on their side, not on their side when it comes to age. But we can see they are quite fit and they're running inconsistently. But I feel that these are experienced bowlers that we can't underestimate. And we need to go out there and just play the situation correctly. If there's a loose delivery, put it to the boundary. Every single run that gets added is a bonus. And I think that's how Kyle Verreynne and Via should focus on it. It's just trying to think of the next run, and take it ball by ball. Not thinking too much about, we need to get to this particular target in this time. I think they just need to play in their own style, because I think Kyle Verreynne's style does suit this pitch, and it does suit his natural game that we see him play, does suit this pitch, and it does suit the situation that we currently in. What Vian Mulder's vibe is, we still need to try and understand. because when he's in, he looks marvelous. When I've watched him with the bat in the past, when he's in and he's seeing the ball, he's destructive. But when he's not, he looks very bad at the crease when he's not in. We saw bits and pieces. We saw a flash of it in the first innings. I'm hoping that he takes that confidence into the second innings now. We just need a couple of 30s, 40s, 30s, 40s from the next three that are coming in. And I think South Africa, and a good performance from Kyle Verreynne, and South Africa is in a good position. Hanno, do you want to add anything to that when it comes to our batting and the approach that these youngsters now take? Because there's a massive, massive responsibility that they have right now.
Yes, thank you very much. I think the attitude that you walk onto the pitch is absolutely crucial. I mean, you saw how Janssen and Keshav showed us the way. I believe that attitude is the right attitude, where they say to each other, look, we are going to be positive, but we're not going to be stupid. So what I read between the lines is don't go and play rash shots, play straight bat as fast as possible, but don't get bogged up and get into the tactics and pressured by the bowling attack, because they are very good at sussing you out. However, if you are bold and if you are positive, that normally negates any type of tactic, as long as you can be wary of how they are setting you up with a few bounces, a few sledges, and then you must be knowing, okay, it's probably going to be a full shot that they're going to get me in. So just keep it on the ground like Rassi did, and that should be the right attitude. It's, for me, I think the way that Janssen and Keshav handled their 8 or 9 wicket partnership of 65, that's the way we can go again. I don't think we should be hesitant in any way or form, but don't be rash and don't go and play a loose shot just because you want to prove a point after Wagner has mentioned something to you. And it looked like Wagner is playing second fiddle for a change with his own tactics, and that's the way to go if we want to have more of that. Regardless, I'm slightly disagreeing with what a set target is still required. History shows us this. The total of 200 or more has only been chased down once in history on this ground, and probably with a weaker attack than what we have to offer. Of course, New Zealand is one of the strongest teams, if not their strongest team ever. But having said that, you've got the situation where we've been humiliated in the previous test against New Zealand, and if history is anything to go by, you don't bet against the South African after getting mocked or written down by New Zealander. That really, I think, set us up for the right attitude. And in my mind, we basically won this test in the first session of the first day when Dean Elgar and Sarel Erbeer got to do with the most difficult conditions and the best bowling that New Zealand has to offer, and they came up trumps. I'm not saying that automatically gets a win for us, but I'm saying that basically set us up for a win. And I think we should have enough on the board. Of course, not comfortably enough, but I think if the mentality of the history between South Africa and New Zealand is, in terms of the sporting rivalry, is anything to go by, you won't bet against the Protea to win this. We basically have this game in the bag. We just need to keep our heads and execute.
I love that mentality and I love that attitude. And that positivity is what the Proteas need right now. Guys, let's get your final thoughts. You can make it a little lengthy. There's no cutoff here. So Aditya, I'm gonna give it to you first. You can make your final points, and then Ravi, you can have your say, and then we can hear from Mano.
I think tomorrow will be defining days in Vian Mulder and Kyle Verreynne's careers, and if they can perform well tomorrow against a world-class New Zealand outfit, then there's every opportunity that South Africa can go beyond 300. We've also seen that Marco Jansen and Keshav Maharaj are in excellent batting form, and it showed in the way that they played in the first innings. They scored 37 and 36 respectively, but both were fantastic. And I think South Africa can rely on them to add a few more 30s again. But in saying that, I was I was totally in agreement with Rassi van der Dussen's assessment in his press conference earlier today, in which he said that, as much as New Zealand is going to be disciplined and they'll come hard at you, they're still going to be sore, because over a 3-day period, if each of their bowlers have bowled 40 or overs, then it is going to be tough on their bodies. So if South Africa can play well in that first hour and see off their first spells, they'll be in a good position to capitalize on that through the rest of the day. So from South Africa's point of view, I think they just need to grind it out for that first hour and ensure that they don't lose a wicket. If they do, they'll be solid tomorrow, and then it's going to be the Kaki Surabada and Keshav Maharaj show.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think specifically you just need one guy to step up, stand up. I mean, obviously there's a partnership that's involved here, but in my mind, I'm thinking either Verena or Mulder could step up, make sure that they see through a good substantial number of overs, get a milestone under their name. That'll do a world of good, a world of wonder for them from a confidence point of view. And specifically to the game as well, you just need one guy to step up, score a big milestone or 50, whatever, and have the other guys bat around that. The odd 15, 20 odd runs, as we've seen from the likes of Wagner and the rest of the New Zealand tailenders that got the better of South Africa. And I think we need to have that positive mindset, much like what happened in the first innings. So we don't necessarily need a huge milestone. Obviously, that'll be lovely. But I think you just need one guy just to apply themselves as well as possible, and the other guys bat aggressively and as efficiently as possible, and then try and declare just before the last session of play, put New Zealand into bat in an effort to try and get some scalps towards the end of the day's play.
Okay, from my side, I just want to say there's 3 things why I'm so bold about us winning tomorrow. And I'm not doing this just loosely by having Dutch courage saying so. The 2 first things is basically KG is on song. And have we ever lost a test when KG is leading from the front? I don't recall any of those tests. So for the last 2-3 years, all that I've been praying for is KG coming back to form, and he did that in the previous series, and he's continuing that now. So that gives me a lot of courage when he's leading from the front. The second is the turn that we got on day 2 already when Keshi started to bowl. I mean, and New Zealand doesn't even have a spinner, and going into day 4 and 5 in the 4th innings, who would bet against a team with a quality spinner? Not getting a total post 200. I don't think so. And then the last thing is basically the previous humiliation that New Zealand gave them a lot of overconfidence. Same as what happened with India when they got bowled out for 36 against Australia and then went on to win the series with basically a B team. There's a lot of hindsight history when this happens, especially between New Zealand and South Africa in sport. In 2017, they beat us 57-0 in rugby, and the next match we won them and stopped an unbeaten run of 50 world record 57 test wins at home. I'm seeing the same thing loading here. We must just keep on with the same encouraging attitude. Keshi is on song, KG is on song, and you know what? We have the right attitude, and it's not a very good idea to write off a South African, after being humiliated the previous match against New Zealand. I'm just saying, I've never seen us lose after that. Thank you.
Perfect ending to the show, guys. Yeah. I just want to see them. I just want to see Calvarino score runs tomorrow. Really, I do. I think it's about time now. We've been speaking him up for a while now. I think the position, the situation is perfect for him. He looked good. The in his first 20 odd runs that he scored, but hopefully he can push on and go and score bigger runs here for South Africa. We really gonna need him to do so.
Can I say something, Khalid? Sorry to cut your
Yeah.
word. I have to say, I know I'm inspired by your words there. We should try and get you into the change room with the Proteas and give them the innings break speech, or sort of our version of the halftime speech, you know? Very inspirational, very encouraging words. I'm much more confident now because of that, going into this match.
Yeah, that's why I'm sitting here like not knowing what to say next. There's no outro I can possibly do to top it now. Go subscribe to the magazine, guys.
It's like watching and Remember the Titans, you know, like you do this, guys, you know? Or like that inspirational moment in Rudy where everybody puts their jersey on the table and, you know, Rudy is like, yeah, you know, we want to give our number to Rudy so he's going to win it for us. Like that.
I'm just saying the best motivation is for a New Zealander to write you off. You saw Neil Wagner try that, and you should know better. I mean, I'm still gobsmacked that he tried that, and you know the rest is history. So it's not that it happened once. There's a pattern of this happening, and it's not based on a fictional movie. Remember, the Titans was a real movie, but I'm talking about Any Given Sunday. I'm basing this on the added DNA of being a South African sportsman and the ultimate contest normally being against a New Zealander in some of them other sports as well. And I think this New Zealand team may not be conscious or cognizant of that, but I promise you, there's every single South African, and Dean Elgar is reminding them of this probably all the time, and that I'll be very surprised if that's not the case. So they are overconfident, and we have the grit. And overconfidence and grit, normally you know which way it goes.
Awesome. Guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell for all future videos. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every single month. Link is on the screen and in the description. Guys, get involved with the Patreon because we will be, the more patrons we get, the more shows we can do, exclusive shows to our patrons. We could be doing late night shows where we talk really late at night and it's just unfiltered and we just chat and we go mad, and that will be to patrons only. But we can only do those type of longer shows and longer format shows if you guys help us out and join this Patreon account and help us grow as a company over here as well. So get involved over there too. But guys, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow with another daily show. Same time, same place. And hopefully South Africa are in a winning position, in a strong position that we can take this and draw this series, because that is obviously what we all would want. Taking a draw home after the start we've had, I think will feel like a win for me personally. But guys, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care.